So in the previous podcast, we were exploring this idea of painting your miniatures for board gaming, and how over the past couple of years that line has really been blurred. I can take a miniature skirmish game, put that down on the table, and then I can take Conan, the board game, which is essentially a miniature skirmish type game, put that down next to it. Side by side, they look very identical. The difference is Conan is not painted, well, unless you paint your Conan stuff up on there. So I was putting out there, as the hobby evolves and we see more crossover of wargamers jumping into board gaming and board gaming jumping into war games, not to mention the RPG D&D crowd that paint their own miniatures. Do you paint your board gaming miniatures? Now this leads into part 2 on here and builds up a couple of comments that I was following up on my channel regarding the Dungeons & Dragons Adventure System games. This was a Chardalon, Ravenloft, Tomb of Annihilation. Now we've got Dungeon of the Mad Mage out there, Temple of Elemental Evil. If I had to pick one, I'm still leaning towards Temple of Elemental Evil. A, because you fight a dragon in there, and B, because it has kind of the classical D&D monsters, although I am intrigued to possibly face a beholder as in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. But I say that because what's interesting is in this series of games, the past 2 games, we're seeing a break. We're seeing you can get the game, unpainted miniatures, or you can pay like $40 more or so and get pre-painted. More and more we're seeing a little bit of a pre-paint option. And this is what I wonder. This is the speculation here. I'm not saying don't go out and paint your miniatures, but as the hobby evolves and pressure, literally consumer pressure is put, what's going to become normal? Going back a number of years, Descent First Edition, I remember when it was released, it was one of the first games in the Fantasy Flight coffin boxes, these massively long boxes, and I remember it was $100, $100 for a board game, and I'm like, that's absolutely madness. That's madness, and that's madness from someone that, of course, is a miniature wargamer. So I'm used to paying that price, and this is coming from someone that's a Games Workshop enthusiast. So back it up a few years, and you're like, $100 for one tank? Oh, but it's a Land Raider. Hey, that's a good deal. Oh, I need a new chaplain to lead my Space Marine army. It's fine cast with lots of bubbles, aka it's not really resin. Bunch of bubbles in there. Oh, $35 for one miniature? That's a great deal. So I've already been brainwashed to pay the high price when it's literally only pennies of material and packing. But for some reason with board games, $100. And you've got a lot of value in Descent First Edition. I mean, I still play it. I love it. A lot of value. But what we saw was other games, companies and games, I mean, I'm going wide here, they started to now approach. So it's like, hey, wait, you're getting $100? I'm getting $100. And then we started to see with Zombicide Modern and kind of games like that, where it's like, I'm going to creep up to about $100, $80, $90 in there, but I'm going to pack this full of miniatures. I'm going to give you so many miniatures, it's crazy. Maybe the idea was I'm going to give you so many miniatures, come under price for $100 down to $90, and obviously it's worked. So now I feel like we're at this place, if I'm looking at Kickstarters and I'm looking at various things, where the game itself is going to be about $100, and maybe MSRP and then streets like $90, $80, whatever, about $100, and we're going to pack it with miniatures. As we start to see pre-paint, where pre-paint now becomes mainstream, and certainly pre-painted, it's like the speed paint. Obviously, it's being sprayed on. It's a machine doing it. It's good for what it is on there. It's a good base. Hit it up with a wash, some details on the base and some highlights, and it really pops and really looks amazing on there. But out of the box, pre-painted is awesome with that. Do you think that will go more mainstream? Will we see Zombicide Season 27 pre-painted? I don't know about that, painting that many miniatures. What is I'm spacing the Kickstarter that used the Sun Drop. I was bummed I missed it on their Nemesis. Oh man, that game was so for me, and I missed it. I don't know what the heck I was doing on there, but Nemesis had the option for the sun drop, the shading on there, and it wasn't that much of a difference in price. It looked fantastic. Are we going to start to see pre-painted? And once that happens, then it'll be the mad rush to kind of populate and bring all of the other competitors, bring everything up on there. I think it's going to happen at some point. 5 years out, 8 years out, where that will become more the norm as opposed to the exception. Your thoughts on that?